Conway, should anyone be surprised that this happened?
No, not at all. And because this was a story about completely relentless, repetitive, incessant, intentional lying. And we all saw it unfold in real time. And the court recorded it in its opinion and basically said this, under the disciplinary rules, the rules of professional conduct, is simply impermissible. We can't have lawyers lying to courts. We can't have lawyers lying publicly in their representation of clients. And the court found that Giuliani had done both. And I have to say, based on what I saw in this opinion, even though this is only an interim ruling and an interim suspension, it's pretty clear that Giuliani doesn't have much of a defense, and he's entitled to a hearing, but unless he comes up with something, and I don't think he will, he's never going to see the inside of a courtroom again other than as a defendant.
You really believe that? Do you think he'll be disbarred?
I think he'll be disbarred, or he'll at least receive a suspension that's long enough that, given his advanced age, he's not going to be practicing again. And I don't know, frankly, who would ever retain him, given his record.
Giuliani said tonight on another channel, quote, "There's no doubt if I was representing Hillary Clinton, I'd be their hero. I represented my client so effectively that they're trying to get me to shut up," end quote. I mean, you're not allowed to represent your client and lie brazenly, are you?
That's exactly the point. I mean, this isn't about who he was representing. This was about the lying, the incessant lying, saying that thousands of people voted in Georgia, dead people voted in Georgia, and in fact only 2 were found to have voted that way. And saying that thousands of underage voters in Georgia voted, and in fact there was a full audit in Georgia, and it was found that 0 people had voted. He lied to a court about the claims that were actually being litigated in the court. His client, the campaign, had withdrawn its claims of fraud, and yet Giuliani stood up before a federal judge and said, "We're asserting these claims of fraud." And his co-counsel had to stand up and say, "No, we're not. No, we're not." He lied to courts. He lied to the public. And in the context of how important and how significant and the poisonous effect of these lies, the court said that they had no choice but to suspend him even before having a full hearing. He did.
Do you know much about his business? I mean, will this affect his bottom line? He had, I don't know if Giuliani and Associates is still around, but I mean, he used to have this, which I think was sort of consulting, lobbying, I'm not exactly, I think they did a whole wide range of kind of security related and other services.
I don't know that he's got that business going anymore. I mean, from everything that I've read, he seems hard up for money. He had a very costly divorce, and I can't imagine anybody's going to be hiring him for anything. And particularly, I mean, he just came off last year, not only just the dishonesty, but he came off as the world's worst lawyer. I mean, his main client was the President of the United States, and other than Donald Trump himself, no person on this planet did more to cause Donald Trump to be impeached, not once, but twice, than Rudy Giuliani. I mean, remember, it was Rudy Giuliani running around Ukraine trying to get the Ukrainian government to announce a bogus investigation of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And remember, it was, of course, Rudy Giuliani who pushed these ridiculous claims of fraud and stood at that podium on that platform at the Ellipse on January 6th at that Stop the Steal rally, saying we need to have trial by combat to determine whether the President of the United States lost the election. It's incredible. It's conduct unbecoming a lawyer.
It's like a fever dream
even
when you say it.
apart from what the court is doing. It's nuts. It's nuts. And I think his best defense would be some kind of an insanity defense.
Today is the 35th anniversary to the day that Roy Cohn, the disgraced former attorney for Senator Joe McCarthy, various mobsters, and then citizen Donald Trump, was disbarred by the state of New York. Actually, an attorney who used to work with Roy Cohn was my mom's attorney and cheated her, and she got him disbarred as well. His name was Tom Andrews. He's dead now, but he was disbarred. How eerie or maybe satisfying is that coincidence? I mean, it's just kind of one of those fascinating historical coincidences.
It is one of those fascinating things. I mean, there are incredible similarities. I mean, Roy Cohn was a very talented man, but he was a very, very dishonest man, and that's why he was disbarred.
Yeah, I mean, he was also
He was one of Donald Trump's favorite lawyers.
Yes,
and he was also one of Donald Trump's favorite lawyers.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump, remember when he was mad at at Jeff Sessions for being ineffectual, in his view, attorney general, and said, "Where is my Roy Cohn?" Right. Roy Cohn was the model attorney to Donald Trump, and look where it got him.
Yeah. George Conway, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.